the number one thing that I noticed, because as I said, leading up to this, I was still going for walks every day. And when I would go into the gym, I specifically remember I could only walk as fast as 3.3 miles per hour. And even some days it had to be less than that. And if I would go even, there was no way I was making it to an hour. No way. So, once I got back into my routine of things, I went back to 3.3. And then the next day I was like, I'm feeling good. So I want to try 3.4. And that was the first day in years that I literally could walk for an hour straight at 3.4 miles per hour. And I didn't feel like I was dying. And, it's just been every single week since then. I've been upping it a little bit. It's not linear. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah,
over
yeah,
the
yeah.
place, but I can tell you I can at least walk 3.4 miles per hour for an hour, if not faster.
Welcome to the Deeper Healing Podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Howley. This is for everyone who's been dismissed, misdiagnosed, or told to just live with it and refuse to accept that answer. You're going to hear amazing patient recovery stories, raw and real in their own words. People who found answers after everything had failed them. You're going to hear from medical experts we trust that are pioneering new approaches to healing the body, because we deeply know we're designed to heal. Let's dig in. We're super excited today. We have a guest, Becca. She's coming in from Pennsylvania. And thank you, Becca, for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So Becca was a recent stay and heal at Deeper Healing, which means you come down to Charleston and you do an intensive for, 2 to 3 weeks, and it really moves the needle fast. And Becca had a really amazing experience, and she came down with her fiance. And I thought it would be really cool for the listeners to just hear your story. So when did this all, you're like the picture of health, which is always the way. When did you
Yeah.
start getting sick?
So I want to say initially it was March of 2022. However, looking at the timeline now, that is the first that I really started to notice it. But if I go back a little bit further, in September, August or September of the prior year, I finally got hit with COVID. And when I had COVID, I felt, for lack of better words, like I was, on my deathbed, and it was very hard for me to handle, which was odd because prior to that, I always used to tell people, I rarely get sick, and it was something I was happy about. But when I got hit with COVID, it was very, very bad. Had a lot of trouble breathing for quite a while after that. And so looking back now, I can kind of see that I never really fully recovered from it. I thought, just with as sick as I was during that time, that, 2 months, 3 months of, just feeling still down and out was probably just part of it. However, in March of 2022, that's when I really started to notice that I was getting sicknesses like just viruses that were your typical viruses going around. And at first it wasn't alarming, but it was odd because, like I said, prior to COVID, I had not really had a problem with getting sick. And it was like I would get sick for about 2 weeks, and then I would finally be on the mend for about a week. And then as soon as I would start to feel just a little bit better, I would just tank again. And I went through those ups and downs for probably about 2 months. And then in May, that is when I went to my primary care doctor. And well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to see my primary care doctor at that time. I just saw a different primary care doctor, and they had given me antibiotics for a virus. And I ended up not taking them, truthfully, just because they said I had strep throat, but my throat was not sore at all. So I was like, it just didn't really seem right. So I went ahead and I scheduled another appointment with my family doctor that I've been with since I was a baby, And when I went to see her, she suggested that I do further testing. And just a little bit of backstory there. She was also my mother's primary care doctor for, I don't know, just as long as I can remember, as long as I've been alive anyways. And she was very familiar with her history. And she unfortunately struggled for probably 10 to 15 years with very serious sickness of just, she couldn't really breathe that well. She would get pneumonia regularly. And they had diagnosed her with an autoimmune condition where basically, from my understanding, is her immune system was just basically non-existent. So she would have to get immunotherapy treatments on a monthly basis. So my doctor, knowing her history, went ahead and suggested I get the same amount of testing just to check to see, if there was any possibility that I was experiencing the same things that she was. And sure enough, they did the tests and it came back that just like my mother, I had low IgG, IgA, and IgM levels. So at that point, she referred me to the hematologist that my mom had seen just to kind of see what his opinion was. And he had expressed to me that, yep, you just have the same thing as your mom. And I was kind of on like a 3-month rotation with him. I would check in every 3 months with, they were just kind of monitoring where I was at and
But
never
not
really.
really
Oh, go ahead.
treating, not really doing a lot.
Yeah. And it was, I went about like every 3 months and they were just monitoring and nothing was changing. And I was like, is there anything I can do? Like any kind of like special diets that would help with this? Because at that point, I was scared because my mom had like the year before she had passed away when she had COVID because of this underlying health issue. So I was very frightened.
I'm sorry.
And yeah, thank you. But he was like, no, there's not really anything you can do for it. And I let my scaredness get the best of me. And
Oof.
I was doing my own research. And in my research, I found that the condition that she had, there was only less than 2% chance that it could be genetically passed down.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, this seems kind of weird. So I was starting to have some doubts at that point. And, as I said, I was going back every 3 months. And he basically just told me, whenever you're ready to start immunotherapy, just let me know. And
First of all,
I,
can I bump in here for a sec? I just want to say to you, like, what I love already about Becca's story is twice already you've said, that didn't really make sense to me. So I started looking into it more. So, like, you're not well, they're not treating you. Your
Mhm.
mom had a serious autoimmune condition, died from a virus. You're now starting to get freaked out and no one's really doing anything. So,
Yeah.
kudos to you for saying, wait a minute.
Yeah, she's
Like,
curious.
this
You're like,
isn't
"This,"
making sense to me.
and I was healthy. I was very healthy, and
And you're young.
yeah, how old are
Yes.
you? I was
Yeah.
gonna ask that.
Uh, I'm 28 currently.
Okay, yeah, I was
So
gonna say for the people
yeah.
out there listening, like, we're talking about a very young woman in her 20s that is now, hit
Yeah.
rock bottom from COVID, and, and your blood cells are showing that too. So all the different IgA, IgM, all those markers, like, are immune cells, and basically hers are very low, and your
Yeah.
mom had to do the immunoglobulin therapy, which is a bunch of
Mhm.
IVs, and basically you have to start doing those for life. So
Yeah.
that's what
Yes.
you're trying to avoid. So keep going. I can't wait to see
Yeah.
where this
I
goes.
have one other question, Becca. Were you a
Yeah.
sick kid?
No, I
You were
was
a puppy kid?
honestly, yeah. And I will say most of my life, I was technically like overweight, but that's the thing too. About 2019, I started like a completely different lifestyle. I lost a lot of weight. And prior to this, I was running like 3 miles a day, felt my greatest. And then within months' time, I was lucky if I could even walk a mile without just feeling exerted.
Wow. So you're
Yeah.
feeling yourself, you're on the slippery slope down. You know it.
Yes.
You know it.
Yeah.
You're like,
I
what?
could tell something was off
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm sure I had myself probably a little more freaked out than I needed to be because, I just kind of felt like I said, I was frightened and
Mhm.
I was worried trying to find fixes, what can I do to help this? And I'll be honest, feel like I was met with the opposite energy of it is what it is?
I hate that.
So,
And
yeah,
you and now the other part I hate, which is I think so many people, is now you're your own case manager. You're already scared. You're like, I'm not a medical person. I'm really scared. And no one's really actually helping you at this
yeah,
point. So,
yeah,
okay, I hate the position you're in.
yeah. I was feeling very defeated at that
Mm.
point. The more I thought about it, I was like, okay, I'm going to get a second opinion. So I went to a bigger, kind of better named hospital in my area to see the hematologist. And she said to me, she didn't really give me any different insight, but she was a good bit more helpful because she had looked back in my history of medical records and found that I think it was in 2015, my iron was dangerously low. Like she was like, "Did anybody tell you?" Because I had blood work done, and then nobody ever reached out to say like, "Oh, this is a problem," and I had no idea.
I hear that
So,
all the time. Now, I'm not even kidding you, and
yeah.
I hate to interrupt, but like that is
No, you're
such
good.
a thing where people go get blood work, they get it done, and their doctors never follow up with them and tell them this is out of range. Oh, did they tell you and your iron's low or this is on the low end? Your thought they never called me back. They never told me. I'm like, these results are from 2 years ago.
That's
I'm so
Yeah.
crazy.
sorry. How low was it? Do you remember? Like, were you
It
severely
was
anemic?
it was very severe. Because I remember she was kind of, like, shocked that, like, I have gone all this time not knowing because she's like,
Wow.
"I'm surprised, like, you weren't fainting." And
Hmm.
at that point, she was her recommendation was to start taking iron, which I did, and at that point, that helped me feel a little bit better, but I still was nowhere near where I was prior to feeling sick. But she kind of echoed what I was feeling as far as the immunotherapy goes. She was like, once you start that, it's a lifetime commitment and your body's going to become reliant on that. And
Yeah.
that was exactly
Sounds
my thought
horrible.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Not to
she was
mention
like,
how expensive it is.
I know. And
yes,
it's not even a healing therapy. So I'm curious, tell me the journey to get to deeper healing.
yeah. So it after that, it was kind of I waited it out for probably a good, I don't know, I wanna say, like, year and a half, and I started like, during this time, I'm just researching nonstop, and
As we
I've
do.
that's yes, that's when
And
I kind of got into the more, like, holistic, functional side of things and just reading and researching, and my eyes were becoming open, and so, ironically enough, a functional health facility was opening up in my area. So, I decided to go there and give it a try. And it definitely allowed me to find things out about myself that I would have not known had I not gone there because, they do more extensive testing. And we just kind of started a supplement cycle to see how things went. I did the whole gluten free, dairy free, soy free thing. And it helped for a little while, and I told myself, I was like, "I've lost so much of my 20s. I'm only gonna give
yeah.
this a year,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a fair shot, a year." I feel like if I'm not seeing anything in that time, like, then I just need to give it up, and unfortunately, a year came and I just was not feeling any better. I was feeling worse this entire time over the course of the, 3 years. I was just continually feeling worse and worse and
Mhm.
worse. And
Becca, I just have to jump in here. Marty and I wasted 8 years. So, like, you were very smart. I'm just saying this because I know there's gonna be people out there listening to that. And I've heard so many people say, like, I really liked my doctor. I'm doing this diet, I'm doing these supplements. And I'm like, well, how's it going? And they're like, well, I'm still not worse, maybe a little better sometimes. I don't know. They're kind of like limping along. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay, well, it's been, how long's it been? It's been 2 years. Okay, well, it's probably time to try something new. Cause I'm like, I wish someone had said that to me. Like, give
Yeah.
it a year. I wish I didn't I just kept saying, we got to stay the course.
Yeah.
We stayed the course. I
Mhm.
just got to say it out loud. So smart.
Well, and God bless you for giving it a year. I would tell our listeners out there, give it 4 months, 6 months. If you are starting to do something at a cellular level and you're doing the right things, now the body takes time to heal, but 3 to 6 months, you should have significant improvement if you're on the right track and doing the right
I
things.
know someone out there
Yeah.
listening is like, yeah, I'm on year 4.
I
I'm still
know.
a mess.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Well, they
Hey, this
just kind of jumped ahead. And this is what you did. Like, you went to see a functional practitioner and they kind of took you down, like, oh, it's foods and
Mhm.
you're deficient in supplements, which is
Yes.
great. That's a great place for some people to start. And that was your journey. And a lot of people start there and it can make a big improvement. But usually, what happens, at least with my experience, and I don't know about yours, but people will
definitely.
see a little change in their symptoms for a good month or so, and then it's like, and now I'm kind of right
Mhm.
back. So
Mhm.
you got to shift because, yeah, you did get some inflammation under control. You got some proteins out of your diet that the immune system was causing it to work harder. So anyway,
And I know, like, Dr. V, if he was sitting here, he'd be like, "That's because 'cause they're not looking at the toxins."
I know. Well, it's true.
I could literally hear him like, "They're not turning the right stone over." So,
Yeah.
okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
so you did that
you give
doctor
it
for a year.
give it a year,
Yes.
not better, and so you're back to the research board.
Yeah. And prior to the year being up, I would say, like I said, I did not stop researching at all during this time. I joke with my friends and family. I'm like, I feel like I could be a doctor from all the research I've done.
We
Seriously.
talked about that
Oh my
earlier. I'm
God.
like, some of these
Seriously.
patients deserve PhDs.
They,
Yeah.
especially the mamas with their little babies, their
Yeah.
kids that aren't well, and they're like, these mamas are smart. They are researched. They know the terms. They are like,
Oh,
I know some of the doctors are like, they walk in and they must be like, oh no,
Oh,
I
yeah.
got one of these.
Mhm. I was
Look at
always
Oh,
afraid
you
of,
did.
yeah, I'll be honest, like some of my like primary care appointments I would go into and I would like kind of update them on the other side of things that I was going
Learning.
through as far as like functional medicine. And it was interesting too. The one doctor said to me, she's like, "You're honestly teaching me things I didn't know." And I'm like, it's
Mhm.
crazy all that's out there to know. But nevertheless, like I don't really even know how I came upon it, but during, probably the last 6 months of that year, I came across like mold toxicity and a lot of my symptoms were kind of lining up. But at that point, I was like, I'm not gonna really like land on that completely because at this point, I line up with about 100 different
Well,
things.
that's the problem, isn't it? The
Yeah.
list of mold symptoms. I mean,
Yeah.
I always say, like, you could take your Epstein-Barr people and your mold people and your fibromyalgia people. I mean, I could like pull out a whole bunch of names and it's like, brrr, or they're
Mhm.
manifesting so differently, and it's the same underlying. Did you suspect or were you aware that you ever lived in mold?
So, yes, but I'll be honest, prior to this, like I was like, I feel like 90% of other people where I'm like, oh, there's mold. It's not a big deal. And
Hmm.
looking back now, I definitely lived in mold. The one rental I was in, I vividly remember, above the shower, there would occasionally like be mold spots that would appear on the ceiling. And I would just wipe it off.
Hmm.
And just kept coming back and, I'm just like, "Oh, not a big deal, whatever." Hindsight with that, I wish I would have taken it more seriously, of course, but
You're helping
it was
somebody else take it more seriously by
yeah,
sharing.
Yeah. And I
yeah,
do have a quick question. Did your mom live in a house? Did you live with your mom in a house with mold?
yes.
So that was probably the
Looking
root of all of
mhm,
her
Oh my God.
yeah,
issues too.
Drop the mic
yeah,
moment
Yep.
for real. How
yeah,
many times?
I'm sorry. I was gonna say after this experience, like, my sister, she's been heavily involved just with, like, just hearing the details of it and everything, and her and I are both convinced, we're like, we don't even believe she had what she was told she had, like, 100%. I think her issue was mold because, fun fact, the week that she passed away, they had to go in and clean out her lungs, I think 2 or 3 different times because they were filled with
Oh,
Aspergillus mold, and
Oh
they
my
showed us
goodness.
pictures of that, and it was like, even at that point, it wasn't
oh
like wasn't really alarming to us, but because they're like, "Oh, this can happen." And they acted like it wasn't a big deal, but looking back now, it's like, we
my
wish we
God.
had known sooner, but,
Oh
Unbelievable.
my God. So
Like,
take it in. I can't breathe. I'm sick. Let's just go down the road for 1 second that it is mold. You have an autoimmune condition. We're going to give you a treatment that pummels your immune system for life. Everything that ever comes down the pike, you get sick, and then you get a virus and die. That's pretty much what happened. So, can you imagine if someone had actually said, you know what? Think you have a fungus.
well,
Think you
and
have
yeah.
mycotoxin illness.
I mean, it's in her lungs, which is just quite amazing that whoever was treating her, pulmonologist.
Yeah, it was the week that she did pass away. She was on a ventilator at that time. They did find it, like, I would say, like, the week or 2 leading up to her passing, she was on a ventilator, and I don't know how they found it, but they had to go in a few different times and like clean it out. And I just remember that picture sticking in my head of the doctor showing us a picture of the mold inside of her
Yeah, was
lungs.
it
And I was
like
just like,
little round clusters like that they had to
honestly,
go in and like scrape?
honestly, the best way I can describe it is it looked like I was looking at a picture, of the lungs, the pink tissue or whatever that is. And then it looked just like white clumps of like
Mhm.
mashed potatoes everywhere.
Yeah.
And they
Well,
said,
it's really
Sad.
sad.
That's so sad. I'm so sorry, Becca.
yeah, thank you. Well,
I'm so sorry.
yeah, it is upsetting, but like how things have worked out now, like me and my sister were able to look at it from a positive perspective
Yep.
because, not that something good comes out of somebody passing, but my sister did say to me, she's like, people say something good comes out of everything. And maybe like, if our mom was here, would we have ever continued to further our
To look.
research?
Yeah, to look through there.
Yeah, my mom, she had full faith in her doctor,
Mhm.
100% that I saw because it took her at least 10 years to even get a diagnosis. And she felt that when she finally got it, she really trusted her doctor. So, and I did tell my sister, to be honest, if my mom was here and she just told me, I think this is the best route, I definitely would have just done what she recommended. So,
Mhm. Yep.
uh, it's definitely, I'm glad in this sense it worked out how it did.
Yeah. I've made a lot of lemonade out of some bad lemons too. And,
Yeah.
same thing. It all starts out with where you put your trust, and you don't know not to trust until things go off track and you're
Mhm.
like, "Wait, what?" So you're
Yeah.
you're in a really good mind space where you're like, "I'm learning from this, and that you can't change the past, so we're moving forward. What are the benefits and the gifts to me and my sister?"
Yeah, I'm very, even though it's been rough, like I'm thankful that I don't know what it was, but we felt compelled to keep digging and, not just accept the Western medicine ideology of it. But yeah, so when I started to read about mold toxicity symptoms, it was very weird because it was like once I read about it, I kept having more and more symptoms frequently that it was like, another mold
Oh,
symptom. And
wow.
at that point, I was just I didn't know. I was like, I don't know if I should trust myself or if I'm just, trying to find an answer. But at that year mark of the functional medicine facility that I was a patient at, I'll be honest, 8 months into that year, I was not feeling any differently. So at that point, and I'll be just completely transparent. I was sick of paying for the expensive supplements because I was like, I feel like they're not doing anything. So at that point,
Yep.
I just slowly stopped taking them, did not feel any different. And at that year mark, my blood work came back that all of my levels, which before all of my levels, everything was completely off. But when I went back, all of my levels were perfectly fine aside from the IG levels and then another biomarker, which I now know is a biomarker for mold and or Lyme's. So at that time, I expressed my concern. I was like, they said, it could be mold or Lyme. I was like, okay, well, do we want to test for that? And they said, well, just give it another 6 months and keep taking the supplements. But that's when,
Oh,
I was
Now
like,
now I'm
wah,
like,
wah,
really
wah. Well, that's just
yeah,
what functional medicine. A
This
lot
is
of
what
them, it's
they
like,
do.
see you in
I
3 months,
hate
see you in
this.
6 months.
I get
yeah.
so mad. I just wasted so much time and money that I'm just
Hmm.
like, if I can help anybody shorten their runway and not have to go through all that, like,
Yeah.
God, please.
And there's so much you can do in a couple weeks.
And like, if
Hmm.
if they're like, yeah, like even what you just said, yeah, maybe that's a possibility. Well, should we do the test? No. Like,
Yeah.
explain that to me.
I
Why
know
not?
yeah. And at that point, that's when I was fed up at that point, honestly,
Hmm.
because I was like, why would I keep taking supplements that I
Yes.
stopped 4 months ago? And I have, aside from these few things, I have better blood work results now than what I did a year ago. It just didn't make sense.
Doesn't make
So
sense.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately,
yeah.
too, the practitioner, and this is where I think it gets really confusing for a lot of people out there. So I want to just pause for 1 second because everybody said, oh, I'm seeing a functional medicine practitioner. oh, I'm seeing this naturopathic doctor. Oh, I'm seeing this health coach. They are only trained in whatever little course that they went to get trained in. And so your person went, or the ones that you were seeing were trained in basic kind of nutrition and probably food, understanding food sensitivities and some supplements, which is usually like a weekend course, a month course. Like, cause you can call yourself a functional medicine practitioner and like people don't understand the person's training.
I
So
see that
that's
all
where
the
she
time.
gets stuck. And these people aren't trained in Lyme. They're not trained in mold. They're not trained in
Toxins.
autoimmune and the toxins and the detox. So you basically are now saying, oh, they're functional medicine. You think that they know all these things, but they don't. And you've kind of just been riding the wave with them. And then, you're like suspecting stuff, but they're like, I'm going to stay in my wheelhouse. And, these people don't want to refer out. And so,
And
I
so
just,
many of the callers, they all say the same thing. They're
yeah,
like, I've been to 5, 6, 7 functional, integrative, whatever, coach, all the things. And they'll say, they'll try to lump us in. They'll go, well, how are you different? I'm like, we're 1,000% different.
yeah.
We're literally 1,000% different.
So really, I just would encourage people just because I'm seeing, hearing the pain from what you had to go through, and there goes a whole nother year of your life
A
where
whole nother
somebody missed
year.
it. So I know people are resonating because we talk to patients all the time and we hear their stories, and sometimes it's 7 to 10 years that people have been kind of stuck in that cycle. But asking and kind of digging, like, where did you get your training? How long have you been doing this? Are you familiar? Like, if you have an autoimmune disease or you have an immune suppressed disease, like I've been told I have no immunoglobulins and they want me to do this. What's your experience? Like, start asking more questions.
You know what I started doing? And this really shortened my runway. When I finally figured out that Marty had Epstein-Barr, my husband, I would say, and I was trying to figure out, like, is there anything out there? And still today, WebMD, no treatment, no cure. That's like the standard. That's what they say. So when I was interviewing physicians to try to figure out what the next step was, and they would say, do you treat Epstein-Barr? Yes, we do. Great. I'd like to talk to a patient that was healed of Epstein-Barr that you treated.
Yeah.
Crickets. Crickets. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I say to people all the time, that's why, like, when patients call Deeper Healing and they're like I had one yesterday, it's a young kid, 16. Their parents are thinking of coming for a stay and heal. And they're like, we want to talk to a young person that's done a stay and heal that's recovered. I'm like, great, no problem. Let me get you one.
Yeah.
Because
Here's our Rolodex.
the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
And you don't have time to waste. Becca does not have time to waste. You're a young person in the most vibrant years of your life. So, okay, we just went off on a tangent.
I know. That's
I
what's
get so
really
passionate
important.
about
We
it.
have
I
to
get so
remember,
mad about it.
we do have people, though, listening, and we hear it all the time. And I think just hearing you go through it, I want people to know, like, ask
We
questions, be
understand.
curious, and, like, ask for the testimonies, ask for what experience they have. So get back. How did you get to Deeper
how
Healing?
did you get to Deeper Healing? So you're thinking,
Yeah.
maybe I have mold. So did the mold thing lead you to Deeper Healing?
Yes. I will say, like, again, through all my research, once I decided I was done at the other functional health facility, I had it narrowed down in my mind.
So are you in Harrisburg? Because I saw you.
Yeah, I'm about an hour north of there.
Okay, I was looking because I'm a Philly girl originally.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I thought you were on the other side of Pennsylvania. Okay, so I don't know that side of Pennsylvania as well. But okay, so because a lot of people I talk to are like, yeah, nobody knows anything about mold in my state.
And I know I told you this before, Danielle, but I don't really know how I specifically came across Deeper Healing. I know it was online through some of my research, but I just can't tell you how I came across it. And so I was looking into it, of course, and I was just kind of getting a feel for things. And then I did what I always do. I go to Google, read all the reviews, and I see like over 100 reviews. Everybody's like super positive, which I've not seen that before. So I was like, okay, and I started talking to my fiance about it, and we were going back and forth. And I was like, well, let me see if I can find something like that closer to home. Of course, did not find anything like that. So at that point, I believe it was November of last year when I initially reached out just to kind of get an idea of things. And I remember talking to, I believe it was Britt, and she gave me information gave me a backstory of her experience. So that, definitely made me even feel better about calling you guys. And I'll be honest, I kind of went on a few months hiatus there just because, like, I'll be honest, the thing holding me back was the cost because I was like, how am I going to do this?
It's always the
Yeah.
way. So many people, we have a girl coming the end of this month. She went quiet for 3 years and she's just stayed doing the things locally. And she's like, I just wasted 3 years. I'm done. I'm coming. Like,
Yeah.
I'm coming this month, you know? I'm just going to put it out in the universe. I wanted deeper healing in Pennsylvania.
Ugh, that would be
I
amazing.
know it is so needed. An environmental practice is so
Hmm.
needed in that state. There is
Yeah.
nothing going on the other side either. Maybe we
Yeah.
plop one right in the middle and let people go on, come both ways
Yeah. Yeah.
to get
It's
there.
funny you say that because my fiance, he said when we were down there, he was like, I wish they had one of these in every state. And I said, I do
Yes.
too, but they would have to clone every single person here
Yeah.
because, I mean,
Oh,
the
the
care was
staff.
unmatched.
It is a really special group of people. Well, okay, let's talk
Yeah.
about that. Okay, so you have your onboarding call. You're like,
Yes.
okay, this place looks promising. I'm worried about the expenses. So then
Mhm.
you finally decide, all right, I'm going to do my remote consult and see what they say. That must
Yes.
have been what
Yeah.
happened next.
Yeah.
And then was
Yeah.
that with
So
Was that with Julianne?
yes, that was with
Okay.
Julianne. And if I'm remembering correctly, and everything that she was saying in my appointment, like I just felt different with her. And I've gotten to the point now, I can really read doctors pretty well. And I can tell, I just have a feeling, if
Yep.
I can trust what they're saying. And everything she was saying, she was like super confident
Yeah.
in, yeah, this is what it is. You have mold, and she gave me an answer for every single thing because I was like, well, I said, what about my IG levels? She was like, oh yeah, that's something that mold can directly affect. So that was the first time that I received answers in whole where I had an explanation for every single thing that I was concerned about. So that made me feel very, very good. And during that time, she told me, she's like, quite honestly, I'm willing to bet you have Epstein-Barr as well. And it turned out, when I went down there and they did further testing, she was right. So yeah, at that
Epstein-Barr
point,
is a real monster.
we did that appointment and just a lot more talking with my fiance. I was, very blessed. My family came together and they, between my grandma and my sister and others, they came together and like they knew and saw firsthand how I've been struggling over the last few years. And they definitely helped get me down there. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I have a means to go.
Becca, that is
So
so beautiful because
yeah, yeah,
honestly, your life is priceless. Your life
yeah,
is priceless.
yeah. And
And
yeah,
you
I was
lost
gonna
too
say
much already.
if I can echo that to anybody else, because like I know it's the thought of, if you've been through it all, I understand it's like it's so much money you might have lost, but even now, like it's the best decision I've ever made. And I would spend twice the amount to do it again,
Mm.
if I had to go back. But I will say, like, I know, Danielle, I talked to you the day before I left for South Carolina, and I was panicked because I
Yeah.
was like, okay, again, the cost. I'm like, I'm going down here. What if it doesn't work?
Yeah.
Just purely panicking. But then after I talked to you that day, it did ease my nerves and everything.
I think the hardest thing to wrap their heads around is how am I going to get better in a few weeks? That
Yeah.
sounds crazy, right? Because
Yeah.
they're like, I've been sick for years. I've been doing, I just did a year down here with this person who made
Hmm.
promises to me. And now you're telling me to come down there for like 2 weeks. And it
Yeah.
just sounds impossible, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they all say that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is a really important part of having testimony like yours, because your story, honestly, that's everyone's story. Not, I mean,
Mhm.
not literally that the details, but that progression. You actually have you figured things out kind of on the quick side, to be honest, even though it
Yeah.
doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people like even myself, I was slow to learn. You learned very quickly. Good job.
Mhm.
So, okay. So the day before, I forgot about this. Now you're reminding me. I forgot about your panic. That happens a
Yeah.
lot. They're like, am I making a big mistake? you know?
Yeah.
Were you trying to, like, cancel and not come?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't trying to cancel, but, like, I was talking to my fiancé and my sister. I was totally freaked out. I was like,
Yeah.
"I don't think we should go." And like you said, Danielle, I've been so used to being told, it might take 3 months for you to notice a difference. So, like you said, 2 weeks, I was like, "How is this even
How's
possible?"
this
But
even possible?
It's
yeah,
really common though for this to they get this anxiety and they're like, "What am I doing?"
I
Like, this is,
know.
like, unheard of.
And I noticed too, and I don't know if you remember the day you walked in, but then I noticed like when they get there, they usually come in on Sunday and now it's Monday morning and Monday's always like a really big day,
mhm,
that first long day. They come in very scared. By Wednesday, they're like, they got me. Like they are
yeah,
like their anxiety's gone. They see the love. They see the staff is incredibly competent, that there's a plan and it's very well organized. And like, even if you had a Herx reaction or something was, a bad day, whatever, they're right there. Like
mhm,
everything's right there because they never
yeah.
feel like anybody's got them. Like, I feel like that happens quickly. So tell me about when you arrive. When did you finally calm yourself down?
Yeah, and again, Daniel, that's something that you told me and it's stuck with me even to date. You said literally by Wednesday when we went back to the hotel that night, I was like, okay, 100% feel confident in this. And it like my attitude was like a complete 180 because I was just so happy to be
Yeah,
there. And
I'm all in now. I'm
yeah,
just going to
yeah,
do what they tell me to do.
And
yes.
when
And I
did you
think
start to see a
It's
notice
so
in your
cool.
symptoms?
I would say by the second week, I think that was when we had a lot of different IVs and things like that. And then the ozone therapy, that was at that point, once I had my first dose of that, that's when I could really, really tell a
Mm.
difference. I just, for lack of better words, I felt like light, kind of like I just felt really good.
You got that viral load
I
down of the
love that. Yeah,
EBV.
I'm
Yeah,
obsessed.
I know.
I'm literally obsessed with that treatment. I could just
No.
go off.
I
I
know.
could
Well,
go
I
off
do
about
wanna
it.
say real quick because I know some people are listening that this is their first time. They're like, "What are they doing at Deeper Healing? What is the cellular cleanse?" Like, just so you know, she stayed for 2 weeks. They come in and we do oxygen therapy. So we're increasing the oxygen load to the tissues to help detox the mold. We're putting people on a
Lymphatic
lymphatic
drainage.
drainage device. We're putting her in an infrared sauna. She's getting IVs. She's doing ozone. It's a very personalized plan that she goes through. She's also meeting with doctors. There's microcurrent neurofeedback to help with the nervous system. Some
The
people get
colonics.
colonics.
Mhm.
So depending on your history, your labs and everything, you get a plan. It's like so classic her story that like
Totally.
we hear from
Totally.
everyone.
And Dr.
Yeah.
B, I love this because you saw Julianne, the nurse practitioner, and I love her. She's so smart and meets you where you are. And I just want to like,
Yes.
Jules, I'm raving about you. I love her. I see her myself. But Dr. B always tells the stay and heal patients, he's like, so listen, you're not gonna like me week one. It's gonna be rough, but you're gonna do it and you can do it. And he's like,
Mhm.
and that's okay. Week two, you're gonna be like, I freaking love this place, you know?
Yeah.
And always people ask me like, am I going to be healed in 2 weeks? No. This is what's going to happen. And I know you had a really good experience, but you're going to move the needle really far really quick in 2 weeks and you're going to leave with the path to continue out of it. And that's where the long-term sustainable results happen. Whether it's heavy metals or the viral stuff or the, LDA making it sustainable. You might be one of those people now that's mold sensitive for life. Well,
Yeah.
LDII is going to change your life. It's going to let you live a more normal life. So that's what I like. I'm so, so happy that you came and that you put your trust and that you just did it. So,
Yeah.
okay. So talk more when I got your email about like the changes in your life when you got back.
Yeah. So again, once I got home, like I said, that second week, I noticed a little bit here and there, but like you said, it's a lot on your
You're
body.
still
So
in it. Yeah.
yeah, I was anxious to see, because during that time I'm not working. I don't have that external stress. So I was excited to see how it played out once I got back to everyday life.
Right.
And it's not going to sound like much for some people, but it's huge to me. Like the number one thing that I noticed, because as I said, leading up to this, I was still going for walks every day. And when I would go into the gym, specifically remember I could only walk as fast as 3.3 miles per hour. And even some days it had to be less than that. And if I would go even, there was no way I was making it to an hour. No way. So, once I got back into my routine of things, I went back to 3.3. And then the next day I was like, I'm feeling good. So I want to try 3.4. And that was the first day in years that I literally could walk for an hour straight at 3.4 miles per hour. And I didn't feel like I was dying. And, it's just been every single week since then. I've been upping it a little bit. It's not linear. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
place, but I can tell you I can at least walk 3.4 miles per hour for an hour, if not faster. So that
And you
was
talked about
something.
getting up in the morning,
Yes.
and, your fiance noticing the difference. And I think,
Mhm.
the other thing I think that's amazing about young people, because, people look at someone like you and they're like, oh, she's a young, healthy girl. I don't know if they even
Mhm.
believe that you're sick.
Yeah.
And I hear that often. This is the good news about being a young, healthy looking girl is that given the right opportunity, you have youth on your side.
Yeah.
You do recover faster than someone who's older, who's
Yeah.
been dealing with it for decades, which we see a lot of those. So you have a lot of young cells on your side.
More vitality.
We have a dream. We're going to keep putting it out there. We're going to train hundreds of practitioners in the deeper healing way, and we're going to
Mhm.
scatter them all over the world. So you don't
Yeah.
have to travel so far to get what you need.
Yeah.
Imagine
Yeah.
if you just could go right in Pennsylvania and go to a little deeper healing.
That would
So
be nice.
we're mad at
I will say I'm totally sold now though. Like the 12-hour drive is like, I'm like, I'll come down in a few
No
months.
problem.
Like it
well,
was such a good experience. I'm like, I don't care. I'll go to South Carolina every weekend if I could.
yeah, talk about your experience. That's something they always say in their post interviews about the not just the practitioner but the staff.
Yeah, I can't say enough positive things. And again, not just about Dr. B and Julian, but every single person there. That was one thing that both my fiance and I were amazed by because, like I said, I'm so used to going to facilities where you often are kind of dismissed or, you're just another number. But from the time I walked in, it was like every single person, everybody who talks to you, you can tell they genuinely care and they want to know. And it doesn't matter if they're seeing you that day or they're not, like they're still going to check in. And that was something that really stuck with me because it was like when people asked how you were doing, they genuinely wanted to know. They didn't want just good, they wanted the details like, how are you feeling? Did you have any side effects or symptoms, decrease or increase or what have you? So that was the thing that really stuck with me, just everybody's kindness and, instantly making you feel like you're at home because I did think to myself, I was like, we're only going to be there for 2 weeks. Am I going to feel super comfortable? It'll probably be the end of the second week till I do, but rest assured that first week you're made to feel right at home. So no need to be nervous about that.
You're not a number at Deeper Healing. You're
Yeah.
Becca. You're a person. It's funny today on the way, how no one ever forgets. I was like, said to the group, I'm like, oh, we're interviewing Becca today. And they were like, oh my God, tell her we love her. They were all so excited. So
Well,
they're
you
going to
can
be
echo that
excited.
to them.
I know, I will. I will. And they're going to be excited to see this. Like you're part of the deeper healing community. How do we keep close? How do we
Yeah.
talk about like maybe we'll do an annual trip or maybe we have some fun ideas coming down the pike. So
That would
I
be
definitely want
awesome.
you to be a part of that.
And I have
I
one quick question before we wrap
Yeah.
this up. How is your immune system now?
I will say I have not had any like random sicknesses that have really held me back. There for a while around where I live, there was a lot going around and I did catch that, but it was not like it was a year ago had I gotten it. It didn't take a major toll on me and I was able to bounce back rather quickly. So that was kind of nice to see. That was another thing that really stuck out to me since being back home. My ability to bounce back rather quickly with that. But I mean,
You're
as
on the
far as feeling good, I can tell a difference.
everybody's very familiar with the downward spiral.
Yeah.
but no one ever talks about the upward spiral. And that's where
Hmm.
you're at right now. It's like you're th- at the bottom of that. It's the stay and heal, right? It's
Hmm.
turning the thing around. It's literally turning it around. And then the journey is the going up. You've already been doing the lifestyle changes. You're already been a super research person, avoiding toxins, all implementing all the things. So
Hmm.
you really just needed that, let's turn the ship around. And now once you
Yeah.
get your mold finally out of your body, which Rejuvenace probably sped that up, they're probably going to talk to you about some maintenance stuff, like
Yeah.
things that you can do to reduce your reactivity, but they're going to want you to be clear before you start those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
on it. You're on the path.
Yay, this was
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing your story.
I just
Yeah.
love you.
Thank you
I just
guys
love
too.
you. And just,
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. And I love that you brought your fiance and had a support person and
Yes.
having him like, I see it too. And I heard he's a little bit on the journey too.
Yeah, so it was recommended to him about, kind of, getting tested, but he said he was like, once we go down next time, he's definitely interested in that. But as far as like making the lifestyle changes, I thank him regularly because he's really taken charge of that and, kind of, swapped out our cleaning products with safe things, our cooking, like kitchenware, everything. So we're definitely on the same page there. And I'm blessed to have the support in that way. So,
I really think the couples that do that together, I mean, that's what makes it really sustainable. The worst is when you're like, babe, gotta buy all new pots. And he's like, these pots are fine,
Yeah.
and it's
yeah.
like now you're not in agreement. So it's great having a partner who's been on the journey with you, gets the importance of it. You guys are light years ahead of people your age, and it's going to benefit you as a couple and as a family all the way
Yeah.
through your life. Becca, you're amazing. I know your story is going to resonate.
It really will.
There's a lot of gems in what you went through. You have no idea. You have no idea how you're going to shorten people's runway because
Yeah.
they're you.
I hope so. Yeah.
And I think too, your mom, like, this is
Oh
kind of
my
honoring your mom,
gosh.
sharing your
Yes.
story too, because I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people too.
We have to
Hmm.
plug this right now. Dr. B's been so upset about the amount of mold patients from all over the country that call Deeper Healing and they are on horrible protocols that don't work, or the protocols they're on are making them more sick. Or they have
Hmm.
horrible remediation advice, or they're like it's just such a red hot mess. We got to build a mold course. We got to break it down and make it so crystal clear and understandable. And that mold course is done. 5 modules. It goes through everything. So for people who are listening out there, if you're like, wait a minute, they're like mold illness symptoms,
Yeah, stop Googling.
Stop.
Do not go anywhere else. Seriously, just click the button wherever it is around these show notes or on YouTube, wherever you're hearing this. There will be a link. It's called the Mold Recovery Protocol. It is Dr. B's step-by-step protocol of everything he teaches and all of his knowledge of over the 30 years. He had mold exposure himself, actually, in 2 different houses. Like, he knows and he breaks it down. How can you test it at your house by yourself? How can understanding the moisture, the HVAC system? Then we get into lab testing. Okay, so how can you do this on your own? How can you urine mycotoxin? We give you the links for that. How can I test for mold in my house? We give you the links to do that. We send you right directly to the really good reputable labs. And you can do them all on your own. I mean, we literally broke it down. My favorite part about it is we broke it down because we know people are on a budget, right? Like, some people call us, they can't afford to do this, they can't afford that. And so we were like, okay, if you have no money, here's what to do. Here's how you need to be thinking. Here's like the least expensive thing that you can do to help benefit your body. So good, better, best. Like, if you have all the money in the world, go over here, get these amazing air filters, get these supplements, start here with, you could do more extensive testing if you want to. But you also have a starting place if you have very low income and not a lot of disposable income to learn all this stuff. And really, then here's the key. And this is where I feel like people go wrong when it comes to mold. You have to do these steps in the right order. Because if you start down here, trying to detox this, but you're still getting exposed over here, you're going to make yourself worse. And these are like clinically, unless you work with patients and you know what you're doing, just like kind of you did with, okay, I started just doing food stuff and then I maybe got a little better, didn't get worse. All my labs look normal. We talk about that too, all the lab work and how most people, their lab looks normal, but what to look out for mold. You know, really, what do I do in the right order to how can you get the best results in the fastest way possible? I think that's what makes deeper healing so unique. And then I'll stop ranting about this if you can't tell. Like, I love this topic. It's so big here in Charleston, South Carolina. We're in the low country. There's mold everywhere. Buildings are just not built right and people are so sick, and we've been doing it for so long. It's sad. I'm on a mission to get this information out, and Dr. B, we did it. So
Paper houses on swamps.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
what I was really going to say, what makes, like, if I was to describe deeper healing and like what makes us different, it is the fastest way to heal yourselves, like, ever. I mean, and I can challenge a lot of people, like in a lot of these other centers, but from what I've seen, because I've been in the environmental medicine world for over 20 years, I've worked at a lot of different clinics. I've been to tons of different conferences. I've trained under amazing mentors. I know these big centers. I know what we're doing. I know what people are doing with inflammation, mitochondrial health, detoxification. There's big ones in Europe. There's big ones in Mexico. There's some, all over. And what we do here in Little Charleston, South Carolina, has such a huge impact. Like 2 to 3 weeks for somebody that's loaded with heavy metals or mold or has chronic infections. Like, it really is this simple. Your cells are inflamed, they are swollen, and it's thrown off your immune system. And so these cells are basically starving, and we're just not getting the nutrients in, nutrients out, and we have all these loaded toxins and chemicals and stuff. So with all the little things that he does, he like mobilizes it, he moves it, he's getting oxygen. Oxygen is the biggest healer. Just like what we do in our office, and this is his proprietary protocol, like with getting the oxygen and like the step-by-step process. You do that, and you do it over and over, staying consistent, the cells will heal. It's so awesome.
I see it all the time.
And then it pushes all that mold out. It pushes the heavy metals out. Now we do have to give certain chelators and things to kind of help bind. And that's where the protocol and the step-by-step gets very specific, and it's very individualized. So I feel like people need to know, like, that's the difference. And I'm just wondering, Becca, would you agree with that after you came for your Stay and Heal?
Yes, 100%. 100% different than anything else I've ever experienced. And I love that you guys are creating that for people, because there is so much out there, and it's hard to know, one person saying one thing, another person saying another, but take it from me, you can trust what you guys recommend. But I think that's really
I
great.
think that is the hardest part and I went through that myself, where it's like, I would believe people. And that was just one of like a whole slew of doctors that would promise the moon, underdelivered. And that's why, for me, being involved with deeper healing, I always ask people, where have you been? What have you done? What has worked? And now I have paid attention for 6 years. There's not a lot of good stuff going on out there. And I'm saying that not because I want it to be true or because I want to sell my, deeper healing. It's because I really care about people I care about them not going through the hell that we went through, not going through the hell you went through. How do we shorten their runway, and how do we help as many as we can? And the mold course is a great way that people can help themselves.
Yeah, learn all the right information.
Yeah.
This is where online courses, like, we give you the knowledge, you have to implement it. And I think with mold, and I will say this, people with mold have a lot of brain fog, brain issues, like that motivation factor and the like implementation factor, I think can be hard, which is why people come to the Stay and Heal. Mold is extremely neurotoxic, and people's brains just don't work.
No,
so it's
they
hard
don't.
for them to follow instructions and do things. So
You were really lucky to have your family support, who are like, we're going to financially help you to get better. And that's why we have the foundation. We started the foundation for those people. We took up more of your time than we said.
You're perfectly fine.
I love you. I love you sharing your story. It is such a help to people, especially being a young person who just did their Stay and Heal not that long ago. To just give that testimony is huge. And may all of our efforts here help somebody out there shorten their runway. Okay,
But
good.
yeah,
All
thank you
right.
guys
All
for
right.
having me. I
Thank you.
really appreciate
Mwah.
it.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody, for joining. If you want more information, especially on the mold course, click the show notes below, and we will see you next.
We hope this episode inspired you. Here's how to go deeper. Visit deeperhealing.com to become a patient. Online, we have loads of courses and a free toxin quiz. Subscribe and please, please share this episode with someone who needs it. It's always that one-on-one support that really gets people to find deeper healing. Remember, this is educational content, not medical advice. The information shared here should be discussed with your own personal healthcare provider. If you're excited by listening to the medical experts or the personal recovery stories on here and you want to start your own deeper healing journey, go to deeperhealing.com and start your process.